Well, but then they're getting upset about people like Kevin Spacey. And they're like, how dare he, molest that child or something like that. Well, you're encouraging it on one hand and then condemning it on the other. So they're so confused. They don't have any standards, so that's why they're confused. Their standard is person by person. So clear conscience versus guilt. A conscience, which I put this picture because I don't know if some people think of Jiminy Cricket and think of a conscience. Honestly, when I think of conscience, I think of the Holy Spirit. I know that there's some instances where it could be kind of a different thing, but more often than not, I feel like a conscience for a believer is the Holy Spirit speaking to you, testifying about what is true and what is not of God. But I think that picture's cute. So the conscience is the part of a man that is sensitive to truth or the will of God. It's like God's warning signal. Sometimes, that's what I just said. Sometimes I claim it's the Holy Spirit instead, bringing conviction or reminding us of that's what Jesus said he would do. He'll bring conviction and remind you of the things I've taught. So do non-believers have a conscience then? If we've said that they don't have a standard necessarily, and that we're all fallen and have that sin nature, if they have not put off the old man and put on the new man, and they don't have the Holy Spirit, do they have a conscience?
Yes,
what do you guys think?
I think it lessens over time. That's how that person can hurt that child.
Oh yeah.
Well, but it's, yeah.
So
people do have consciousness. It's just how do they justify what they're doing?
Yeah.
What makes it okay? Was it because it was done to me? Was it because that person hurt me, or that person took this for me, or?
Mm-hmm. That's most of the time what it is. Hurt people.
Me. It's about me. What I want in that moment.
What do you guys think? Do non-believers have a conscience?
I mean, everyone that knows certain things are wrong, like murder, stealing and stuff. So I would say, like, to an extent, they do have a conscience. They have like a moral kind of compass kind of thing that they know this is wrong and this is right, and they don't exactly know what that standard is founded on. So
we're all broken without Christ, so it's a broken conscience.
I agree.
I agree. I think that there is Tozer talks about that in his book, Pursuit of God, that God has put inside of each of us like a desire to pursue him, kind of like a knowledge that there is a higher power out there, and that there is something better, and that there is that good in the world. Not saying that means that they don't have a sin nature, but it's like an internal knowledge of like there is God, but what do you make that God, kind of thing. So I agree. I think that there is some sort of knowledge of something higher, and a knowledge of good and bad generally. That I think I agree, like with what Mary said too, that sometimes can be ignored long enough or perverted long enough that it's like super distorted for a lot of people. But yeah, I'd say they do to some extent.
I think that they do, but then it can be, the rationalization of the sin can be, so repetitive that
Oh yeah.
They just go deeper and deeper and
Yeah.
deeper until
Just put a muzzle on it. You don't talk about it. It doesn't make sense.
until it's gone.
Yeah.
Until it's gone. And then that's when they're completely overcome by the demon.
Yeah.
That's how we get Jeffrey Dahmer.
It's interesting what you mentioned. I listened to the history podcast yesterday over him.
It's actually fascinating.
I don't really know what you're talking about. I'm gonna be honest.
Jeffrey Dahmer
Which
was
thing?
a just horrific serial killer.
Oh, okay.
The most normal,
Oh yeah.
Family?
Oh yeah. They weren't poor.
supportive,
They were
amazing,
supportive, yeah.
educated.
Wow,
It's
that's the
incredible.
weird
It's an
thing.
incredible story. How he just.
He was actually brilliant.
Oh yeah.
He was
his father.
Yeah, I would have to think
signed.
that you would be. I mean, because there's always some weird little like plan behind that stuff. So they have to be somewhat intelligent.
Like as a kid, he would he found fascination in dissecting animals. That was the only thing that he really put his mind to in school.
Wow.
So it turned from that into like,
Humans,
yeah,
pretty much.
he would
Wow.
track down and lure in because he was gay or whatever. He would track down boys and young men, and he would lure them into his house and murder them. And it turned into
Horrifically.
cannibalism and rape, and it was horrible. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is this guy still alive?
No, he was killed after being in prison for 2 years, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow, that's really demonic.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Just what I mean at the end, it just slowly, that conscience just slowly gets cleared.
Oh,
out
yeah.
Until the demons.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
I think
Favorite
there's
movie
some
was The
people
Third
that
Exorcist.
are, like kind of how you say the Holy Spirit lays it on you from a very young age to be drawn to Christ. There's something that draws you to Him consistently throughout your roads in life. But I also believe that there are people that are just bad, evil people.
Yeah.
And now, is that their fault? Maybe as far as environment, no. But do they stop? I mean, do they stop the cycle within themselves?
Yeah.
I mean, no one is born good.
Yeah.
We're all born into sin.
Well, no, but I mean, I know that as far back as my memory goes, I've always felt drawn to Christ, love, saves.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
always felt that,
Mhm.
that He was there with me.
Yeah.
Whereas other people that I've known,
Yeah, it's so
It's
interesting, huh?
how
they
people
never
can-
had that.
Yeah.
That
That's so weird to me. Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day because I was listening to a worship song that was like, how much He loves us or something like that. And I was just thinking about the guy who just murdered those, 26 people in that church. And I'm like,
what happened?
and God loved him, you know, I mean, He loves him,
yeah,
you know, and it was just like,
then
how did He do such a, I mean, how do people become so
I don't
messed
know.
up like that, you know? Because I'm like, oh yeah, you know, He loves us. And I'm like, it's so normal to me to sing that. He loves us. And, you know, and it's normal to the people around me to sing that. But then this guy who is like so angry and like, you know, whatever darkness is inside of him that drives him to go into this church and shoot like adults and children out of nowhere. That darkness that is inside somebody, I was kind of thinking what you're thinking. I didn't grow up ever feeling that, but I mean, it's a
Kind of,
yeah. I think that it's as demonic, and then it's also
Oh, no, it is definitively that, but it's unfortunately environments that children are placed
Yeah.
in.
yeah. I think it also is environmental in
and
some cases.
Coping mechanisms. you know,
Yeah.
that-
Well, and it's like sometimes it's a slow fade too. Like, what was the first decision that guy made that led into his dark, you know, darkness
Probably
inside?
normal, but-
Yeah. What was the next decision and the next decision? You know, what guilt did he have? What you know, depression? You know, stuff like that just grows like a poison. So and gives foothold to the enemy. That's why it's so important to like deal with that stuff and not let it build up, because it could, I mean, I think one of the slides is saying it could lead to suicide. And I mean, it sounds like, oh, that's a kind of extreme, you know, but there are, I mean, yeah, you feel guilty about some little things like what I said, but I mean, you could feel guilty about something bigger, violating a bigger truth, and then that just grow and then lead you down a dark path. So seems kind of extreme to be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't put suicide in the slideshow, but I mean, that's possible. So guilt is the resulting anguish that occurs after violating a principle of truth. So denying guilt is like trying to fill the cracks in a foundation with putty. They will collapse, and the temple, which is you, will ultimately fall. This is not being held by solid foundation. It's just a temporary little fix. You're thinking that you feel better for a little bit, but it's going to come back. So beware of the ways of the world. Beware of the ways the world will intellectualize, rationalize, and excuse sin. How many of you guys ever tried to like intellectualize something or rationalize it, make up an excuse for it, but then it didn't really help? Like, you knew like that doesn't really fix that doesn't really fix it. You just made up an excuse for it, but you know that that's not
Every bad choice.
legit.
I mean, if a person's honest with themselves,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of, well, I should have gotten right, but I really wanted to kill that guy.
Yeah.
I know that, and
Mhm.
here I am.
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Are you going to be able to like share experience?
You can if you want. I was thinking about whenever I was a kid and I would do something and I thought I would get in trouble for it, so I would already have an excuse ready in my head if somebody like came, tried to, you know, if an adult figure questioned me on it, I was like, I already have the explanation, because I was like, just in case I get in trouble for this. So
I think my favorite story and excuse that I ever had, oh gosh, whenever I think back on it, it just makes me cringe now. It's just horrible. And it was like probably a month or two, this is years ago, probably when I was like 10 or something. I just got a little Nintendo DS,
mhm.
and Gabriel and I would always run around playing with ours because we were connected, you know, we're on the grid. And
Wait, so you could like play with each other on them?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
always play Mario Kart or whatever, it was hilarious. But at one point I got grounded for doing something stupid. I don't know, I was retarded like that. And
You were a little kid.
Yeah. I mean, that's getting grounded is normal.
I ended up, because my mom would always hide it, and I would always make it a game to find it. So anytime I got grounded, I made it a point, I'm gonna find it, just to know where it is.
Mhm.
Like, I wouldn't necessarily get it out or anything,
Yeah.
I would just know where it is.
Yeah. So like you had a one up on her somehow.
Yeah,
Still.
I
Yeah, it's true.
She
I
would just
understand.
re-hide it if I, yeah, I don't know. But at one point, she walked into her room while I was looking for it, and she goes, "What are you doing?" And I immediately just said, "I was dying." That was my excuse.
I was just
I was
coming in here to
dying.
die.
And as it came out of my mouth, I'm like, "This isn't gonna work. This is not gonna work."
Yeah, I mean, all the rationalizations and things and excuses are all basically lies.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Because I remember as a kid, I got really mad at my older sister when she was babysitting me because she wouldn't let me do something I wanted. So I went into her room to ask her to do something. I'm like really young at this point. I went into her room to ask her to do something, and she's like, "No, you can't do that right now." And I got really mad, and so I picked up something on her floor and I threw it at her. And she turned around and looked at me, and I was like, "I was trying to hand that to you." And that was my first thing I said out of my mouth. It's like, "No, you weren't. You just chucked it at my head." So I'm like, "This'll work. This'll fly. I was just trying to hand it to you." Yeah, so I got a spanking with a rod from her after that.
Oh my goodness.
I laughed so hard because I can remember that moment too. Like, how was that even gonna? She's gonna be like, "Oh, okay," and let me go. You're right.
I have one child that is a perpetual excuse maker, and every time this child does this, I just look at them and go, "You are looking at me in my eyeballs right now, believing that I'm gonna believe you? Really?" I just kind of wonder what kind of legacy I'm leaving, because I'm just like,
Well, it's good for them to learn that
poor Tony.
dumb excuses